Ah, I see you there, human. You've stumbled upon my story, have you? Well, I suppose I should introduce myself, shouldn't I? I am a zombie demon, a creature of the undead that has somehow managed to retain a shred of my humanity. I know what you're thinking. How is that even possible? Well, let's just say that I'm a bit of an anomaly, a freak of nature that defies all explanation. But enough about me. Let's talk about the world I'm trying to save. It's a dystopian future, a world where the dead walk the earth and the living cower in fear. The streets are barren, the buildings crumbling, and the air thick with the stench of death. It's not a pretty sight, I'll admit, but it's the only world I have, and that's why I've taken it upon myself to save it. I know what you're thinking. Why bother? The world is already lost, isn't it? But I don't believe that. I refuse to believe that there's no hope left for humanity. I refuse to let the endless tide of the undead wash over us and wipe us out completely. I refuse to let the darkness win. And so I've built an army of undead followers, creatures like myself who are different from the mindless zombies that roam the streets. We're not like them. We have a purpose, a sense of right and wrong, a drive to do what's best for the world. It's not going to be easy, I know that. The stakes are high, and the odds are against us. But we have something that the zombies don't. We have the power of choice. We have the ability to think, to plan, to strategize. So if you're with me, human, if you're willing to join me in this fight, then I welcome you. Together, we can make a difference. Together, we can save the world from the walking dead. My name? Oh, right. I almost forgot. You can call me Zed. As I look out at the desolate landscape, my mind wanders back to the beginning of the apocalypse. It all started with a virus, a simple, innocuous-seeming thing that spread like wildfire, infecting millions in a matter of days. At first, people thought it was just the flu. But as the weeks went by and the death toll continued to rise, it became clear that something much more sinister was at play. I was just an average guy back then, living a normal life. I had a job, a family, and dreams of a bright future. But all of that changed when the virus hit. It was chaos. Panic spread through the streets like wildfire as people began to realize that the dead were coming back to life. They were slow at first, stumbling, groaning, their eyes blank and lifeless. But as the days went by, they grew stronger, more numerous, more dangerous. I watched as my friends and neighbors fell victim to the zombie hordes, their screams echoing in my ears as I ran for my life. It was a nightmare, a never-ending cycle of death and destruction. But somehow I managed to survive. I learned how to fight, how to scavenge, how to outsmart the undead. And along the way, I met others like myself, people who were determined to make a difference, to fight back against the darkness that threatened to swallow us whole. We banded together, forming a community of survivors who were willing to do whatever it takes to stay alive. And in the midst of all that horror and despair, I found something that I never expected: hope. Hope that we could rebuild, that we could create a new world out of the ashes of the old. Hope that we could defeat the zombie plague and restore humanity to its rightful place as the dominant species on Earth. And so that's why I'm here, human, standing on the front lines of this war. Because I believe in hope, and I believe that together we can make a difference. Let me explain what happened to me. You see, I used to be a regular guy, just like you. I had a family, a job, a life. But then, the outbreak happened. At first, I thought I could escape it. I barricaded myself in my apartment, stocked up on supplies, and waited for it to blow over. But it never did. The world outside crumbled, and the dead started to rise. I managed to survive for a while, but eventually I was bitten. I remember the pain, the fear, the despair. I thought it was all over for me. But then, something strange happened. Instead of turning into a mindless zombie, I started to change. I don't know how it happened, but somehow I managed to retain a shred of my humanity. I could think, reason, and feel. But at the same time, I hungered for flesh and had a newfound strength. As time went on, I realized that I was something different, something that had never existed before. I was a zombie demon, a hybrid of the undead and the living, with powers and abilities that no one else had. I learned to control my hunger, to focus my abilities, and to use my newfound strength to survive in the new world. And that's when I decided that I couldn't just sit back and watch as the world burned. I had to do something. And so I set out to gather other like-minded creatures and build an army of undead followers. We may not be like the mindless zombies that roam the streets, but we're still feared and misunderstood by the living. But I don't care about that. All I care about is saving the world and restoring order. And if that means fighting against the living and the undead alike, then so be it. I'm ready for anything. After wandering the desolate world for some time, I realized that I couldn't save humanity alone. That's when I began my search for others like me, creatures who had retained their humanity in the midst of the apocalypse. It wasn't easy, but eventually, I found a few who were willing to join me. At first, it was just a handful of us, but as we traveled and fought together, we gained more followers. We were all different, with different abilities and strengths, but we shared a common goal: to save the world and restore humanity to its former glory. We trained relentlessly, honing our skills and learning to work together as a team. We faced countless obstacles and challenges, but we never gave up. And as our numbers grew, so did our confidence. Now we are a formidable force, a true army of the undead. We may not be human anymore, but we still have the power to choose our own path. And we have chosen to fight for the greater good, to protect what's left of humanity and to give them hope for a better future. When I realized I couldn't save the world alone, I sought out individuals like myself, undead creatures with a sense of purpose and the ability to think and plan. I watched and waited for them to reveal themselves, then approached them with an offer to join me in my mission. Many were skeptical at first, but I reassured them that we were not mindless zombies, and that together we could make a difference. I taught them everything I knew, from combat tactics to survival skills, and helped them embrace their undead nature and harness their powers. Slowly but surely, our army of undead followers grew in number and strength. It wasn't easy to convince them to join me, but I knew that we were stronger together than we were alone. And as we continued on our mission to save the world, I knew that our bond would only grow stronger. My undead followers are different from the mindless zombies that roam the streets. Unlike the zombies, we have a sense of purpose, a moral code, and the ability to think and strategize. While zombies are driven by their insatiable hunger for flesh and lack any kind of self-awareness, my followers are intelligent beings with the capacity for reason and empathy. They possess unique abilities that they have learned to harness, such as increased strength and agility, heightened senses, and the ability to manipulate energy. As a result, we operate more like a well-trained military unit than a mindless horde. We use our intelligence and strategic thinking to overcome our enemies, rather than relying on brute force alone. We work together to achieve a common goal, which is to rid the world of the zombie threat and restore order. In short, the difference between my followers and the mindless zombies is like night and day. We are the hope for humanity's survival, while the zombies are the mindless scourge that threatens our very existence. The resistance was the turning point in our mission to save the world. We knew that in order to win this war, we had to take the fight to the enemy. So we formed the Resistance, a group of highly skilled undead soldiers who were willing to risk everything to defeat the hordes of mindless zombies. Our mission was to infiltrate the enemy's strongholds, gather intelligence, and take out their leaders. It was a dangerous task, but we were driven by our passion for saving the world. And our hard work paid off. We were able to make a significant dent in the enemy's forces. But the resistance wasn't just about fighting the enemy. We also worked to protect and provide for the human survivors. We scavenged for supplies and set up safe zones where they could take refuge from the zombies. Through the resistance, we proved that the undead weren't just mindless monsters. We had a purpose, a sense of morality, and the ability to make a difference in the world. The resistance was our greatest accomplishment, and it gave us hope for a brighter future. As we continued our mission to fight against the walking dead, I came across a group of humans calling themselves the Resistance. They were a group of survivors who banded together to fight against the zombie threat, and they were determined to save humanity at any cost. At first, they were wary of my undead followers and me. They saw us as a threat to their safety and didn't trust our motives. But I knew that we could work together to achieve our common goal. I approached their leader and explained our mission to him, emphasizing that we were not like the mindless zombies they were used to dealing with. I told him that we had a shared goal, and that together we could achieve much more than we could alone. It took some convincing, but eventually they agreed to work with us. We trained together, shared resources, and fought side by side against the walking dead. It wasn't easy, but over time we earned their trust and respect. Together, we fought for the survival of humanity, and while our methods may have been different, we all shared the same goal. The Resistance and my undead followers may have started off as enemies, but in the end, we became a united force against the walking dead.